Hello, beloved, greetings, and welcome to this evening Togetherness Media. We're overjoyed to have you with us today. We have a beautiful show. We'll be talking about the health issues related to quarantine and being all cooped up inside away from everybody else. And we have a beautiful show. We have Dr. Stephen Schwartz here, aka Dr. Vibe. And we have some music and some good conversation. And speaking of music, let's get to some right now. Welcome back to Togetherness Media. So we have a beautiful show. So there's so many issues and things going on, and there's the coronavirus, aka COVID-19, that everybody's worried about. But there are also some health effects of being separated from everyone, from being inside of the house, and from being locked away. And we have a wonderful, brilliant doctor and a personal friend of mine today, Dr. Stephen Schwartz, founder of Bioharmonic Technologies. And he's going to talk to us, and we're going to talk with him a little bit about some of the health concerns people have and and some of the ways to alleviate them. How you doing today, Dr. Stephen Schwartz?
Friend.
Hello.
So good to see you.
You too. You too. I miss you, brother. How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. I'm here broadcasting from the Quantum Vibe portal. You have
Nice.
to come over here, check this out, but check it out, man. We got it all set up.
I need to. I definitely need to. I get my vibes on all the time.
Me
So,
too.
yes. So, Dr. Stephen Schwartz is founder of a company called Bioharmonic Technologies, which is a company that uses sound to heal people and to alleviate things, accessing your body's cellular water memory, and could do everything from remove toxins from your system, activate stem cells, increase bone density. But today he's here to talk about the effects of quarantine on health. Would you like to start off, Dr. Steve, and give us a few pointers on and a few facts about quarantine's effect on health?
Yeah, I'd love to. When you brought that topic up to me, I was like, this is fantastic. So I'd like to share with you the first thing that I did when lockdown happened for me. I was living in Venice, and I was feeling I wasn't sure what was going to happen, just like the rest of the world, right?
Hmm.
And I actually had the opportunity to move out of Venice, to move a couple hours east of the city. And the first thing that I did was I recorded my audiobook. And why that's so relevant is I began reading my book. I wrote this book called Primal Resonance: Discover the Secrets to Health, Vitality, and Optimal Human Performance. I wrote it in 2014. It came out in 2015. And the first chapter in the book is called A New Epidemic in America.
Hmm.
And if you take out the word America and replace it with world, it explains the pandemic that we're in right now perfectly.
Hmm.
And then the next 10 chapters go on to talk about the top 10 lists on how to reverse aging and degeneration using sound light frequency technologies. But there's another chapter in that book chapter 11, about eliminating infectious agents.
Hmm.
And what's so fascinating about this is I read my book cover to cover as I was recording the audiobook, which is about to be out probably in November, beginning of November. So look for it on Audible. But what was so incredible about this was I was reading and just saying, wow, this is like what I've been talking about for the last 20 years that I've been in clinical practice in Denver, was working with infectious agents and bacteria, viruses, parasites, mold, fungus, yeast, all these things. These are the root cause of chronic inflammatory diseases, which has
Hmm.
been the cornerstone of my practice this whole time. So as I was reading this book and think about what was going on and not really knowing about the mode of transmission, not knowing about all these things are going on, What I've seen though over the last whatever 6 months, 8 months that we've been in lockdown is there a virus going on? Absolutely. Who are the people getting it? The same people that are suffering from chronic systemic inflammation, the same people that are dealing with a new epidemic in America. Is this more severe than the flu? Yes. Can it kill you? Yes, it can. Can the flu kill you? Yes, it can as well, but that's for another conversation. However, who are the people that are surviving this? Who are the people that are not surviving it? And really, what we're dealing with are people that are suffering from chronic, long term, that's what chronic means, systemic, full body inflammation. And where does inflammation come from? The air we breathe, the water that we drink, the thoughts that we think. What are the toxic, acidic, inflammatory thoughts that we think? All these things are contributing to it, and the food that we eat. Did I say? Not sure exactly. Those are the four: food, air, water, thoughts. These are the contributing factors to it. And then people that are dealing with, if you have allergies or some kind of other immune compromise, but then that takes us down another rabbit hole of why are we having immune compromised issues in the first place? That's what I talk about in my book. So back specifically to this coronavirus pandemic, really the first thing that we need to be focusing on is our, I personally think is our immune system. And how do we raise our immune system? So really interesting, because one aspect is about fear, and there's been research to show that fear scientifically reduces our immune system function. So when we're reading what we read about, when we're seeing everything on our phones and on the news talking about inducing fear into whether it be the election or into the pandemic or into whatever's going on in the world right now, all the conspiracy theories that's happening in Los Angeles, which I don't think are conspiracy theories, but that's another conversation that you and I could be having. All these things are going on. It's stimulating aspects of chemistry in our brains, not just in our brains, but through our entire bodies. Sympathetic nervous system versus parasympathetic. Sympathetic, fight or flight response. I'm fear, I'm contracting, I'm afraid, I don't want to get out of bed, I'm depressed. I'm not hanging out with I'm afraid to shake somebody's hand. I'm afraid to give somebody a hug. I'm afraid to have a conversation too close to somebody. I'm afraid to get in a car or an Uber or something with somebody. All these things day in and day out is creating a negative, fearful chemistry on the body. Another aspect of that is, what about the food? I think it's really interesting. My observation during the pandemic is, okay, like we're here at the Ralph's or any of the regular supermarkets, and there's people in here. A lot of people are like taking processed food and putting it in their refrigerator, in their freezer, in case for Armageddon to happen, right? But what about the farmers markets? Well, they've super regulated them as well. Like getting fresh fruits and vegetables, getting fresh meats, getting all these things. Social distancing. They were closed down for a while, and once again, it's super important that we bring in healthy food. And I'm not necessarily saying it needs to be vegan or vegetarian, not necessarily. It just needs to be clean, and it needs to be more high vibe.
Yeah.
And these things also, one other comment I'd like to mention is when I've studied biochemistry, okay, I'm not sure how many people on this transmission have studied biochemistry, but when you're learning about it, they have all these little arrows kind of pointing. Where's my other finger? There it is. All these other arrows that kind of go in both directions. Oh, they go in one direction or the other direction. So like this chemical reaction is going one way and this chemical reaction is going the other way. Well, what I'm wanting all of you to know is that chemistry in our bodies, they move in both directions. So when we're having fear and negativity and toxicity, is having such a profound impact on our physiology that's creating chronic systemic inflammation. If we reverse that equation, we can go in the other direction, and we can create chemistry that is regenerative, that is chemically uplifting in our moods and behaviors, and it'll actually boost our immune system.
It's interesting. I always hear people talk about Armageddon, but nobody ever mentions Legageddon. You spoke about inflammatory diseases, And can you give a few examples of some diseases and some ailments that are based on chronic inflammation?
For sure. So starting at the top, the obvious things that we talk about are any kind of autoimmune diseases. So
Lupus,
lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, anything that has to do with
Crohn's
the gut,
disease.
Crohn's disease. These are all different aspects. But now, when we start expanding that, and I remember when I was in school as well too. My background's in sports medicine. I'm a chiropractor by license, but I went to undergrad for sports medicine, and I remember learning that there was two kinds of arthritis. They had what they called inflammatory arthritis and non-inflammatory arthritis. Non-inflammatory arthritis was like osteoarthritis, like, oh, I'm getting older, I'm getting arthritis in my elbow. And then they have like inflammatory arthritis, which is like rheumatoid arthritis and psoriatic arthritis, and more of these like autoimmune based kind of. But
Hmm.
now what I've found out is all arthritis is inflammatory, even osteoarthritis.
Hmm.
And so, but now there's other research that's come out that even shows things like depression and anxiety,
Hmm.
learning disabilities. All these things are also related to inflammatory
Wow.
triggers. And it can come from allergies, the food that we're putting in our bodies. It could be food allergies. It could be emotional. It could be emotional allergies. It can be coming from
Inflammatory comments
infection.
and inflammatory thoughts.
Yeah, inflammatory thoughts. I mean, listen, for the last 6 months, I can't kick out what the exact. I don't remember exactly what it is. You might actually know this, Anthony. How long it takes to make a habit? I'm not sure. Is it like
30 days.
30 days? Okay, so for 30 days, we've been more than 30 days wearing masks, and they're like, oh, we can't wait for things to go back to normal. This is like a chronic condition. I've
Hmm.
always said that when you're hobbling around on crutches for like a sprained ankle, or if you hurt whatever is going on with you, the crutches is going to create a worse chronic condition than the actual injury itself.
Hmm.
And I think that same concept applies to what's going on now with the pandemic, because okay, like what happens if tomorrow, if all the governors in the United States say, okay, no more masks, pandemic's over? I mean, how many people are going to just be like, masks are over, throwing their masks away? Or how
Hmm.
many people are still going to be super paranoid?
See, that was
And
actually my
so,
next question was regarding
yeah,
the mask. I know there's been various studies about how the CO2 is affecting, like obviously wearing the mask, and then all of the new studies by the CDC say that the airborness of COVID and is like it's very minimum. That is mostly through hand touch and like in touching and then touching your face and touching your mouth afterwards after touching infected things with your hands, and that the airborne issues as far as this are actually very very minimum. So in your opinion, do you think that the mask are doing more damage long term to people's health than not having the mask?
I mean, that's a great question, Anthony. Really, thank you for asking. By the way, I want to show you, I'm totally not into wearing masks, but I wear masks because I'm a human living on this planet right now. And I was at this event down in Venice Beach, and this is my new favorite mask I've ever gotten. It's got this cool, it's got sacred geometry on it. It says SOS, save our souls.
Nice.
So if I'm going to wear it, that's the mask I'm going to be wearing. But in getting back to the mask question, a couple things. First of all, I feel really great. I have a lot of gratitude that I've been able to live this 2020 in an environment that I'm not needing to spend my daily life in a mask.
Hmm.
Like I look around at the hospitality center in the hospitality industry, they're wearing masks and they're wearing face masks. People in the medical profession, a lot of anybody's running any kind of retail store, are constantly every day wearing masks.
I see people driving, I'm like, who you? I'm like, why are you driving with a mask? You're by yourself in the car. Are you gonna give it to yourself? Are you gonna contract it from yourself? Take it off. You're just making the mask hot and leaving all these bacteria and creating all this extra moisture in it.
Exactly. So to answer your question about the mask, so a couple things. First of all, very primal. I mean, this is all basic information. We as humans, we breathe in oxygen and we blow out carbon monoxide. That's a scientific fact. And plants give off oxygen. And so it's really great how we work off of the whole plant animal circulation process. So if we're covering our mass and we're recirculating toxic carbon dioxide, over time, that's going to create more of a acidic environment. And I opened up this whole talk about chronic systemic inflammation. Inflammation is activated by acidity. So the more acidic you are, the more you're activating your inflammatory process. So the chances of you creating an environment for yourself to catch this coronavirus is increased the more that you're wearing your mask. So there's a major oxymoron there in that regard. And then let's see, there was another comment I wanted to make about the mask. You remember what your
We
question?
spoke a little bit about how it wasn't. They said it wasn't airborne. That it was minimally airborne.
That's right. Thank you. Minimally airborne. Exactly. So here's a really cool statistic about virology, about the study of viruses. So when you look at a virus, the size is just, everybody that's listening to this or watching this, picture a size, if you can go on it and picture like on a scale, on a little ruler, what a size of a millimeter is. And this is more like a centimeter. So this is more like a millimeter. Of a typical size of a virus is 0.003 to 5 of a millimeter. So it's like a speck. I mean, this is what I'm needing you. So for these things to be floating around in our world, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden, boom, they get into our mouths and they get into our noses, and then they go and they lodge themselves in our respiratory tract, and now we're having active symptoms. There's a lot that needs to happen for that. I mean, you're kind of winning the corona lottery, so to speak, to have those chances of that little pathogen to infect to lodge in and infect yourself through normal airborne facts. So what I'd like to share with you is our cells are much bigger than that, our typical cells, and we may have 100 trillion cells. So when you go into a cell which is bigger, much bigger than that, and you have a 0.00, 0.3, or 0.5 millimeter pathogen virus that penetrates into that, you're operating in a whole different realm of physics. You're not operating, so there's two kinds of physics: Newtonian physics. Hey, an apple falls on my head, gravity, just like Sir Isaac Newton, right? The physics that operate our physical world is called Newtonian physics. But when we penetrate down into the smaller aspects of our cells, into the quantum space, we're operating in an area known as quantum physics. Quantum physics works off of waves and particles and probabilities. And that's when we're operating inside of a cell. So when we think of a virus, I want everybody out there listening to this and watching this, is that a virus is more like an energetic disturbance than a physical thing, than a physical entity. And is there genetic material in there? Absolutely. But is it minute? Yeah, but it responds to energy. So that takes us back to the law of attraction, and what kind of vibration are we needing? Are you operating in that's attracting the coronavirus to flourish? And usually comes down to you have some kind of, your gut flora is off. That's your healthy bacteria that exists in your gut. There's more gut bacteria than there is in your entire body. We have actually more germs in our bodies than we do cells, and most of it is centered around the gut, and it works in a homeostatic relationship with creating chemistry in our bodies. So when beneficial germs come into an imbalanced acidic environment, it mutates the beneficial germ into something called pleomorphism, into a pleomorphic change, and then that begins to open up and they mutate into something pathological. And so when the simple coronavirus, if we're healthy and we have good gut flora and we're vibing appropriately, and next thing we know, the coronavirus gets in to our systems, chances are we might get sick. Maybe we might not even, because they talk about all the asymptomatic people
Mm-hmm.
that aren't spreading this around. Those people may be exposed to it, but they're not getting it because those people, my friend, are healthy.
Yeah.
And so now the opposite of that is people that aren't so healthy may become contaminated, but then their immune systems are compromised.
Yeah.
So it's really important for us to work on, and this is what I love best about this pandemic that's happening right now, if I can share with you, Anthony.
Yes, please.
We've gone into a place for 20 years. Dude, I'm a chiropractor. I've always worked with the small percentage of humanity of people that pursue holistic healthcare, and people, and then even in my own circles of chiropractic in a holistic, people say, Dr. Schwartz, you're crazy. That's been kind of my world for the last 20 years. And I'm like, you know what? I might be crazy, but I get better results than any of you guys. So I'm sticking to my craziness.
Yeah.
But what I see happening now in this world is we needed something like a global pandemic that affects everybody across the board for people to say, okay, what do we do? Let's turn to medicine, because medicine's always been there in the past for us. And
Yeah.
what option does medicine have? We're going to come through a drive-through. We're going to put something up your nose for a diagnostic, right? That really hurts or doesn't even, and the
They
tests
did that
aren't
in the
even accurate.
80s.
What, they did that in the 80s? We're talking about,
Yeah, you can continue.
okay. I think I'm with you on the we'll, we'll talk off we'll talk offline. Yeah. Let's see, where was I?
So,
The 80s.
yeah,
We
so
were, hold on,
they put something up to your nose, you go through the drive-through.
go, yeah, up there. 80s. Got it. Boom. Thank you, Anthony. Took me a second. The joke bomb. But now, or they say, wait for the vaccine.
Yeah, which I
Now
don't
there's
trust.
people. Well, and so we've been having a conversation. I've been having conversations with my patients about vaccines for 20 years.
Yeah.
And the conversations has been with moms about, hey, should I get little Johnny vaccinated?
Hmm.
That's been the conversation. And my answer to them would be, go online and do your research and make your own decision. But there's tons of information about vaccines. And what I want you to look at is what's in a vaccine.
Hmm.
How many vaccines are you giving to your children? How are they being administered? What are the effectiveness of the vaccines that are out there already? And when you just, and then also look, just Google vaccines and don't look for any of those special areas and just see what's out there. You're not seeing anything overwhelmingly exciting from the medical world that they're putting out
Yeah,
saying, wow, I really want to take a vaccine. It's more all the negative aspects of it. And you know that it's the only profession, it's the only drug
that you can't sue.
that you can't sue.
Yeah, the
Why would
only
that
thing.
exist?
Exactly. That's
And when we were talking about little kids getting them, they increased from like getting, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was like getting maybe like eight vaccines between the ages of like 1 and 8
Yeah,
to
it used
like
to be
getting like 64
smallpox,
vaccines.
polio, and a few others
Yeah,
that you used to get back in the day. So, Dr. Steve,
exactly.
we actually
Yeah.
have to wrap up our segment soon, and it's been
Okay.
so amazing having you here. I love your energy. I love your knowledge. Please tell the wonderful viewers where they can find you.
Yeah. So thank you, Anthony. Thank you for having me on as well too.
We'll have you
And
back
yeah,
soon. We'll have you back soon as well. So this won't be our last conversation on air.
I have a lot to share, especially during this time. This is what
Yes.
happens when you keep me cooped up in my house this whole time, right? I
Yes.
got people. So you can find me. My name is Dr. Stephen Schwartz. Also, I'm referred to as Dr. Vibe, and I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. Feel free to find me there. But my company is called Bioharmonic Technologies. And you can go to www.bioharmonictechnologies.com. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook with bioharmonictechnologies.com. Also, my audiobook is about to come out, and that book is called Primal Resonance. And you can connect with me through Dr. Stephen, Schwartz, SCHWARTZ.com. And so any of those areas you can reach out to me. I'd love connecting with my community because I feel now more than ever, people that we're getting bombarded by so much information. It's really important that people can get new, fresh information that can really help. And I have 20 years of experience doing exactly that. So please reach out, and I'd love to talk with you. Thank you,
Beautiful.
Anthony.
Thank you, Dr. Steve. May the Schwartz be with you.
Always. You as well.